Do you play trading card games? Of course you do. That's why you're listening to / watching this thing. If you want to save money on your trading card purchases, we have a promo link over at 50cards.shop. Enter the promo code ATNIGHT to get 5% off your order. Why, hello everyone. It's Atlas from Nexus at Night, and I am here because I am doing a Blue Wave Aqua Force premium deck profile. And because we are Nexus at Night and we have zero consistency, I'm doing a kind of screen-recorded version instead of like popping up the images as I talk. Figured this would be more interesting to look at. As always, the link to this deck log will be down in the description, or if you want to be an ass and look at the URL in the top left corner, you're welcome to. I'm just hang out with me, would you? Leave a like, leave a comment, support us on Patreon, all that good stuff. So, the thing with Blue Wave is that they are a sub-clan where they have a lot of support where they search each other. And for an Aqua Force build, it gets you a lot of card advantage very early. They also have access to a couple of really solid restander strides, which can either kill first stride if you G-Dart into it, or can follow up that Genbolt turn very nicely. So let's get started. We have, as your main grade 3, Tetra-Drive Dragon, which his main thing is that at the end of the battle you're rear guard attacked. If it's 4th battle, you can drop 2 and restand him, he gets drive -1. If it's 7th, you can counterblast 1 and discard and stand him. So if you're going first, this can lead to a very solid grade 3 turn, where you're just, T-posing and restanding on the opponent's Vanguard. Another thing to note here is that if you can make it to the 7th battle and choose not to restand on the 4th, I don't know why you would, but that is the thing, you can not lose any drive checks when you restand him, because you would go, alright, I didn't restand on 4th, 5, 6, 7, counterblast 1, discard 1, restand him, and then attack again. That's probably never going to happen, but it is a thing you can do. His other effects, you can counterblast 1 and give him 2k for the turn. Not super important, but if you really need to hit those Force Vanguards, you can. This is a great thing to build the deck around, A, because of the name, and B, because it's just such a solid card that the deck has the early game leverage of being Aqua Force and the late game leverage of their strides are pretty good. So, off to a good start. Then we have 2 copies of Arsenal Fleet Dragon. So this is from back in G era, and this might be one of the few cards where he's almost like a Garnet for any Yu-Gi-Oh players out there. You can counterblast a Blue Wave when he attacks on the 2nd battle of the turn and restand him and he gets 4k, which, fine. Make him a 15k attacker and he restand himself. That's not the important part. The important part is that if he's in your drop zone, when your Vanguard with Blue Wave and its card name stands due to your effect, i.e. Tetra-Drive, or anything that strides on top of Tetra-Drive, you can Soul Blast and return this to your hand. So this basically becomes reusable card in hand for like PG fodder, as stride fodder especially, because we're not running a lot of grade 3s. It's just a very flexible card. It's also one of those things where like, oh, I called Baragios, check top 5, grab Tetra-Drive. You discard this, it's like you didn't in the first place, because you're just going to get it back eventually. 4 copies of Terrific Coil Dragon. I'll get to the Valeria in a second. So, on first attack, you can Soul Blast and stand him, and then if he stands due to any card's ability, he gets 5k. So this is basically just better Tidal Assault. I'm sorry, Tidal Assault. But this thing is pretty much a 4-of staple in any Aqua Force deck. It's been reprinted a bunch of times. Shouldn't be too expensive to pick up. If you have this, this is your first battle every single time, and it can hit a Force Vanguard on its own. So auto and 4 include 4 copies of Coral Assault, which is if you have 4 or more other units in rest when he attacks, he gets plus 15. So again, he can hit a Force Vanguard even if they take a trigger on damage. And then at the end of the turn, if you attacked 4 or more times, put him into your soul and draw 1. So the main reason you're using that is for that second effect. A, because it allows you to commit and then get your hand advantage back. And B, because he creates soul, which then you can then use to fulfill other costs. Also, a definite auto include 3 at the least if you don't want to pay for it. I'm not sure how expensive it is at the time of recording this. Yeah, not much to say about it except it's good. And then 4 copies of Thavas, which is when it attacks third time, if you get a Blue Wave Counterblast, he gets plus 2k and then end of battle restand him. So normally this can't hit modern Vanguards because it'll only hit for 11, but oftentimes you are putting this on an Excel Circle, or if you're on a certain stride, this can hit Force Vanguards. The important thing is that he's got Blue Wave in the name, because it allows all of your other cards to search him off of their, turn 1 search effects to guarantee that Grade 2 ride. And in the event that you need to extend your attacks, it's an easy way to do it because you don't need other cards. He just does it by himself. I think this is one of those things where I'm just playing it just because I don't have any other better options with Blue Wave in the name. So that's just what it is for right now. If something comes along and replaces it, good. I'd use the V-Series Thavas, but he doesn't really work because he's meant to be used with last card rev on. So no dice there. And then your last Grade 2, this is a flex spot, so you can put whatever you want here. But I used Tier 9 Valeria, A, because she becomes a 19k attacker, which again can hit a Force Vanguard for at least a 1-card guard. And then when she hits a Vanguard, if it's the 3rd battle or more, choose one of your opponent's rear guards retired. If it's 4th battle or more, draw a card. So this can lead to a really aggressive turn too. So you go like, alright, I ride Thavas, I call Terrific Coil on one side and call this on the other side. Swing for 14, 14, 9, 19, and then usually turn 2, people aren't inclined to guard because their hands are usually pretty small. So this can really put on the pressure early, and then later in the game when you really have like Excel Circles and cards that it can attack from back row, I'll get to that later, and a bunch of other stuff, this just fits into that slot so easily. You can pretty much put whatever you want here. At the time of recording this is what I'm using, working out completely fine for me. On to the Grade 1s. Let's start with the Perfect Guard, because I mentioned attacking from back row. So, Yorgos is... he can only protect Blue Waves, which is fine, because if you, ride, what's his name? Thavas, then that's a Blue Wave that you can protect if you have to. But also, all of your Grade 3s outside of the Heal Guardian are Blue Waves. So, that's not really much of a limitation. The important part is that if he's in drop zone, you can bind him face up, choose one of your rear guards with Blue Wave, and it can attack from back row. There are a lot of Blue Waves that can hit numbers on their own in this deck, mostly in the Grade 1 lineup, which means they'll probably be in the back row. So this can turn a 13k Vanguard booster into a 13k attacker, which can be very solid. It's one of the things Aqua Force is good at, which is extending their plays into other plays. Instead of just, alright, I made a board. It's, I made a board, and the board can do stuff. So, very good. I have it at 3 right now. I can't really think of any particular reason why you would not run this in a Blue Wave deck, and the reason I don't have it at 4 is just because I couldn't find the room. Because I have a lot of weird tech options in here, so it's at 3. Next we have 4 copies of Baragios, so this is your top 5 Grade 3 searcher. Also, the worst condition for the plus 5k, so for other decks it's like, if you called 2 things, it gets 5k. If you called a thing from Soul, it gets 5k. This is, if you have 4 or more rested rear guards, it gets plus 5k, which is just god-awful. But the important part is that A, it searches for your Tetra-Drive, and B, it's got Blue Wave in the name, which means all of the support like Yorgos works there. You have it as a 4 of just to leverage that, hedge your bets with the Tetra-Drive thing. So, obvious auto-include. You can cut it to 3 if you want in exchange for a 4th one of this. This is Corvette. If you have a Blue Wave Vanguard, which you most often will, especially early, he gets 5k. And then when he attacks or boosts and hits a Vanguard, look at top 3, reveal up to 1 Blue Wave, put it into your hand, put the rest on bottom. That's another reason you run Yorgos, is because you can sometimes cheese it off the top of the deck with this. If you're going second and you're swinging with your Grade 1 stuff first, you can be super aggressive. Ride this, call Baragios, call this. You're swinging for 13k on turn 1, or turn 2 of the game, but your turn 1. And just putting on a lot of pressure, and then later in the game, he's just, like, every attack becomes an on-hit, and every everything you're boosting is plus 13k. It's such a free card, and such a great card. I would have it at 4, but I am just so unlucky that I would rather dig deep on 5 looking for Tetra-Drive than I would, look at 3 and hope I did the Tetra-Drive. So that's my reasoning anyway. 2 copies of Nerissa. So if it's rested by another card's ability, you can Soul Blast, stand it, and it gets plus 10. Most likely not going to use that. That's for Thavas players. The other effect is at the end of your turn, if you have 4 or more rested rear guards, put it into your soul and draw a card. So this is another way to recoup advantage on committing early and also create soul, because you have a lot of cards in this deck that's Soul Blast. Mainly your G Guard, because your G Guard is your main unflip engine, and then this can fuel said unflip engine. So it's nice. I know it's expensive at the time of recording this. If you want to cut this for something else, that's fine. The grade 1 lineup is pretty flexible outside of, Baradios and Corvette. The rest of it is pretty much do as you choose. If you want to run draw PGs instead and run other stuff, go for it. Now for the 2 techs. We have Blue Wave Soldier Bright Shooter. So this is one of those cards where if you don't see it, it's completely fine. And if you do see it, oh my god, yes. So end of 4th battle that he boosted, if you have a Blue Wave Vanguard, choose a grade 3 from your drop zone and put it into your hand. So this is obviously meant to, get another, I can get Tetra-Drive and rewrite. Guess what? Your Heal Guardians are grade 3s too. This can recycle heals for G-Guarding. That makes it worthwhile enough on its own. In the event you don't draw it though, you'll probably be fine anyway. I don't think these are very expensive at all. It's just one of those things where, you ask your friend if you got it. They're like, I think it's in my comments somewhere. This thing is very, very old. But it's a very nice inclusion. Every time I've come across it, it's been helpful. Every time. And then lastly, 1 copy of Propulsion Dragon. So, auto on rear at the end of the battle that attacked a grade 2 or greater Vanguard. Counterblast, choose one of your back row rear guards, switch places, and then stand himself back up. One thing that sucks about that is that he can't hit Vanguard on his own, past turn 1, which again wouldn't make it applicable. So you have to buff it up in some way, which means that I don't often use this. What I do keep this for is that I'll either plunk it on an Excel circle and then have it switch places with something else, or if it's in the back row, you can use Yorgos to make it live again, right? So you swing with it, it either whiffs or you put a trigger on it or something, and you can hit that way, and then you can keep it live past that. I know a lot of other decks will run more copies of this and don't run things like Yorgos and Bright Shooter, but I think that this is one of those things that's more easily stopped by, either effects that give their opponent's Vanguard power or triggers or whatever. It's very fragile, which is why I only have it at 1. Onto the triggers, 4 Heal Guardians, which I already talked about. 4 of the Stoicheia Shield heals. A, because it's an Excel deck, which means you can, make good use of that front trigger effect. B, because it's extra shield. Aqua Force does draw a lot of cards with the effects and stuff, but 9 times out of 10, a lot of your things are going to be restanding and not always with a crit on them, so I would rather just have this as a way to make sure all of my attacks hit, and for the least amount of effort possible. Also, being 20k shield never hurts. The over trigger, the worst one out of all of the nations, but whatever, it's an over trigger, it's fine. 1 Pascal, so only 1 draw PG. Again, you draw a lot of cards, I don't want to deck out, and sometimes you take it on damage, and that's nice. For Stride Fodder crit, we're only running 6 grade 3s. Yes, 2 of them recycle, but you still want to hedge your bets there, plus is a crit. And then lastly, 2 copies of Brutal Trooper. So, Brutal Trooper's effect is if you have a Blue Wave Vanguard, you can put it back to your deck and then give your Vanguard the ability that when it attacks a Vanguard, draw a card if it's second battle or more. A, that's a way to recycle crits, but B, it's this thing where you can, on a restanding Vanguard, draw a bunch of cards, because you go swing with, Tetra-Drive, for example, draw 1, and then restand Tetra-Drive and attack again, draw 1, restand again, attack again, draw 1. If you have 2 of them and you put them back, they stack. Another example is, like, let's say you have the ability to fill a board, but you also want to see what you get off of Genbold, which I'll talk about in a second, and you pull these out, just put them on board, put them back in deck, Genbold's live, baby. So, yeah, that's pretty worth it. I only have it at 2 just because the 10k shield does hurt sometimes. Also another reason I run a front. And it's one of the like, something unique to Blue Wave that I feel like is just worth the effort. Like, even if you get this turn 2, you can still, like, use that as a way to swing advantage, because you go, alright, put it back in deck, give my Vanguard the ability, so it turns into a wash, but you're putting a crit back in deck and exchanging it for something else, maybe. So, it's just a very flexible card. So onto the G zone. You have Balan Arena, which is the Progenitor Dragon for Magdalennica. It's the best Progenitor Dragon, because when your opponent puts a Guardian on it, you can discard or trade 1 or less card from your hand and retire that Guardian. Does not prevent Perfect Guards from doing their job, but if they're just throwing stuff at the wall, you can use that to run out their hand pretty quickly or just guarantee a hit. I don't go into this super often, but it's always a good option to have. 1 copy of Genbold. So this is the stride that we got in the last premium collection that's so good. So on play, top 7, call 2 things rested, and then when he attacks, counterblast, turn something face up. For every 2 rested rearguards, draw a card and retire an opponent's rearguard. If you drew 3 or more cards, stand 2 of your guys. So in order to make this work, you need 1 Excel circle that every circle has to be full and rested for this effect to get you the restand. You're mostly using it either when you're behind or just don't really have a good hand, and you can maybe reshape your board in that way. It's also good if you're, like, at a roughly even keel with the opponent, and you can use that to just stand 2 and, you know, go for the opponent's face. But mostly it's nice to just draw 3, kill 3. This will never not be played in Aqua Force, I don't think. If there's a future Atlas out there who's telling me otherwise, well, I'm sorry. You don't really need more than 1, though, because he's really only used for a specific purpose, which is for first stride. I see decks, like, run it at 2, and they never go into the second one. They just have it. Like, screw that, dude. Forget it. You have 1 copy of Alexandros. So this is, you know, this is basically, like, Lambros, but not Lambros. So 2nd or 3rd time, stand 2 rearguards, and they get 5k for each face-up card in G-Zone. So this used to be the first stride for Aqua Force, now Genbold fulfills that role. Another thing about this is that you can use this against Mega Colony, Order Colony, because they prevent you from calling it from anywhere but hand, which means it shuts off Genbold. This is your best option for first stride in that sense, because you can at least, oh, my things are stunned, alright, stand 2 of them. Cool, swing with them again. It's one of those cards where, like, it's always there when you need them, right? It's like Taylor Swift at the end of You Belong With Me. She was there the whole time. 1 copy of Blue Wave Marshal Valious Revive. So this is, you never want to do it first stride, but he's like, on attack, call your hand, flip something, and then draw cards equal to the number of the things called. And if you have 2 or more things face up, you lock your opponent's Vanguard at 11 for the turn. So the funniest thing to do this against is knowing that the opponent has an overtrigger, and then they get the overtrigger on damage, and you're like, haha, stuck at 11. But the most important thing is that he's just, like, he's good for if you don't really know what to do. Like, just throw your hand at the wall, draw a new hand, stick your opponent's Vanguard at 11. It's a good, like, if you're kind of behind, right? Your opponent just wiped your board, you're, like, trying to work back from 0. Again, it's not really something you need to do multiple times, so just keep it as a 1-of. That's good. Alright, now we're getting into the weirder ones. So, 2 copies of Flood Hazard Dragon. This is usually what I end up finishing with. So, you counterblast, flip something with the same name, and discard 2 cards at the end of the battle that you're rearguard with Blue Wave. So again, that's why Foivos is in there, to make sure this procs, if you have to. Attacked, if you have a hard card with Blue Wave, which you will. If it's the 4th battle of the turn, you can stand them, and then you just drive -3. So normally, this would restand with 0 drive checks. But, GB3, it gets drive +1. and all of your rear guards in the front row with Blue Wave get 2k. So that means Foivos can now hit Vanguard with that effect. But the thing you want to do is like, alright, I did Genbold first stride, flip something, go into the second stride. Now he's swinging with quad drive on the first one. And then end of battle, you know, drop 2, restand him, and then he has a single drive on that. So again, that's a way for Brutal Trooper to proc. I've heard of some Thavas players using this as like a one-of for like really late game, where they're just like, alright, forget this. I just want the quad drive and the +2 gate everything. I haven't seen it in action, but that's what a friend has told me. So this is probably your finisher 9 times out of 10. It's very solid. I like it a lot. Then you have 2 copies of Tetra-Boil, which does essentially the same thing. So you counterblast, flip a copy of him face up when he attacks. If you have a hard card with Blue Wave, which again you will, he gets drive -1, so he only has twin drive. And then fourth battle that your rear guard attack to Vanguard, you can discard 1 and restand him. So this is like a cheaper Flood Hazard Dragon that would occur at the same time, right? You either have to G-guard into it or he's second stride. It's a very specific instance, which is either you have less of a board to take advantage of, or you have less of a hand that you want to discard. But it's still handy in that sense. I think if we decide to replace something, we're looking for something, this is probably the thing that gets cut, but it still fulfills a very specific niche. You can run 4 Flood Hazard if you want. I'm not going to stop you, but I've never gone into Flood Hazard twice. You know what I mean? Let's see. You have the Zeroth Dragon. This is probably one of the better ones, so Counterblast 2, 5 things from hand or drop, call them to rear. They get 5k, and then end of battle, everybody swaps. This is so good. I don't go into this one a lot, but it's just a really good Zeroth Dragon. And being that we're the only Magdallanica clan that has Excel, it can make the best use of it. So, good on you, Megiddo. Now for the G-Guards. As of right now, I have Ice Barrier Dragon, which is just first or fourth time plus, gets plus 10k. This will get replaced with Dianera when Premium Collection 2022 comes out, because you guys will be watching this afterward, or before that comes out in English. But Commander Jaime revealed this one on his channel when the set was being revealed. This basically just power creeps Ice Barrier, because on the first, you do have to counterblast for it, but it gives your Vanguard a plus 5k power for the turn, which means it's easier to guard everything. And if it's 4th battle or more, this gets plus 20k instead of plus 10k. Just all around better. So yeah, you see this here, but just imagine it's this. And for some reason, Bushi won't let you put not yet released in English cards on the deck log. So, sorry. 2 copies of Ionis, so when you guard with her, you can counterblast, choose anything in G-Zone, choose G-Guardian, turn it face up. I will show you the target in a second. Choose up to 5 of your rear guards, they get resist, and then can't be hit for the whole turn, and she gets 5k for each chosen unit. This is a very easy way to just, like, your opponent starts, like, gunning for rear guard units. You're like, alright, I'm protecting everybody, and I get huge. This is probably one of the better flip G-Guards that that the game has, and it's the best G-Guard that the clan has. Because it's not determined on what freaking battle it is. Then 2 copies of Galphelia. So, 2nd or 3rd battle, she gets plus 5k shield. That's not the important part. The important part is that you can during your main phase, you can Soul Blast and turn it face down, and either unflip a damage or unlock something. So this is always your flip target for things like Genbold, or Valios Revive, or Alexandros, anything that doesn't flip themselves. You are flipping this, because you can then turn that into a countercharge on the next turn. And then the soul doesn't really matter because you're constantly filling it with things like Coral Assault and Narissa. So it's all this weird like economic system. Lastly, to Lambros, if you're being counterblast denied, it's never not good, right? So yeah, that's pretty much the deck. I hope you enjoyed the deck profile. I quite enjoy using this. I don't get to use it often just because I'm usually busy with like Great Nature or Pale Moon or something. If you know, thanks everybody for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment. If you want to support us, patreon.com/nexusatnight. We got merch and playmats for sale. That's all in the description. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time.